In a small, quiet town in the Midwest, life moved at a slow pace. People knew each other by name and everyone had their place in the community. Among them was Marcus, a bright and cheerful 12-year-old boy with a love for action movies and a laugh that could light up any room. Marcus lived with his mom, Angela, who worked hard to give him the best life possible. Despite not having much money, Marcus always found joy in simple things, playing basketball after school, reading comic books, or watching his favorite actor, Vin Diesel, on screen. One sunny afternoon during lunch break at school, Marcus sat with his friends under a big oak tree near the playground. They were talking about their favorite movie stars when Marcus proudly said something he thought would make his friends laugh. "You know what?" Marcus grinned mischievously. "Vin Diesel is actually my uncle." His friends stared at him for a moment before bursting into laughter. One of them teased, "Yeah, right, like Vin Diesel would be your uncle." Marcus shrugged, enjoying the attention. He didn't mean it seriously. It was just one of those playful exaggerations kids often make to sound cool. But little did Marcus know that this harmless comment would lead to trouble. Sitting a few feet away was Jake, the school bully. Jake was tall for his age, with broad shoulders and an intimidating glare that made most kids avoid him. He wasn't popular because people liked him. They stayed out of his way because they were afraid of him. Jake overheard Marcus's joke and decided it was the perfect excuse to pick on someone new. With a smirk, he walked over to where Marcus and his friends were sitting. "What's this I hear?" Jake sneered, standing too close for comfort. "You think Vin Diesel is your uncle? That's rich." His voice carried across the yard, drawing the attention of nearby students. Some stopped eating their lunches to watch, sensing drama brewing. At first, Marcus tried to laugh it off. "It's just a joke, man," he said, hoping Jake would leave him alone. But Jake wasn't satisfied. He leaned closer, his tone dripping with mockery. "Oh, so you're saying the Vin Diesel is related to you? Do you even know how ridiculous that sounds?" Then, his words turned nastier. "Maybe that's why you talk so much trash. You don't know your place." The teasing might have ended there if Jake hadn't crossed a line. Instead of sticking to harmless jokes, he started throwing insults about Marcus's family and background. "Your mom probably doesn't even know who Vin Diesel is," Jake taunted. "She's probably too busy working 2 jobs just to keep your sorry self fed." The crowd around them grew silent, unsure whether to step in or stay quiet. But Jake didn't stop there. In a cruel twist, he added racial slurs, targeting Marcus because he was black. "You think you can claim some Hollywood superstar as your uncle? Get real, you're nothing like him or anyone else worth respecting." Each word hit Marcus like a punch, chipping away at his confidence. Though Marcus tried to hold back tears, his hands trembled slightly as he clutched his lunchbox. Anger bubbled inside him, but Marcus knew better than to fight back. Fighting would only make things worse, and besides, Jake was bigger and stronger. So instead, Marcus stood up quietly, grabbed his bag, and walked away. As he retreated toward the school building, whispers filled the air behind him. Some kids felt bad for Marcus while others snickered nervously, unwilling to challenge Jake's dominance. By the time Marcus reached the safety of an empty hallway, his cheeks burned with shame. He hated feeling weak, yet he couldn't deny that Jake's words stung deeply. Why did Jake have to be so mean, and why did no one ever stand up to him? These questions swirled in Marcus's mind as he sank onto a bench, trying to calm himself. Down later that day when Marcus got home, he hesitated to tell his mom what happened. Angela noticed something was wrong immediately. She could read her son like a book. "Hey, sweetie, what's going on?" she asked gently, setting aside the groceries she'd been unpacking. At first, Marcus shrugged, pretending everything was fine. But Angela pressed further, sitting beside him at the kitchen table. Finally, Marcus broke down. Through shaky breaths, he recounted the entire incident, the teasing, the insults, and the cruel comments about his race. Angela listened patiently, her heart breaking for her son. When Marcus finished, she pulled him into a tight hug. "I'm so sorry you had to go through that," she whispered. "But remember, you are amazing just the way you are. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise? Though Angela reassured Marcus, she couldn't shake off her anger. The next morning, she called the school principal to report the bullying. Unfortunately, the response she received wasn't what she hoped for. The principal promised to look into it, but seemed reluctant to take immediate action. Frustrated but determined, Angela vowed to find another way to protect her son. Meanwhile, Marcus returned to school the following day, dreading the possibility of running into Jake again. Sure enough, Jake wasted no time resuming his torment. This time, he went beyond verbal abuse. He began tripping Marcus in the hallways, knocking his books out of his hands and whispering cruel jokes whenever they passed each other. Other students either laughed nervously or looked away, unwilling to intervene. The situation worsened when Jake took his bullying online. Using social media, he posted memes and videos mocking Marcus's claim about Vin Diesel being his uncle. The posts quickly gained traction among their classmates, turning what should have been a harmless joke into a source of public humiliation for Marcus. Comments poured in, ranging from sarcastic remarks to outright cruelty. Despite the growing storm around him, Marcus refused to let Jake see him cry again. Inside, however, he felt trapped and overwhelmed. Every day felt like a battle, and he wondered how long he could endure this treatment. Little did Marcus know, help was closer than he imagined. Unbeknownst to anyone, fate was already weaving its threads, preparing to turn this painful chapter into something extraordinary. And somewhere far away, in a bustling city miles from the small Midwest town, a certain action star scrolled through his phone late one night. A message caught his eye, a plea for help from a mother desperate to shield her son from harm. What happened next would change Marcus's life forever and teach Jake a lesson he'd never forget. The days following the incident under the oak tree felt like an endless cycle of dread for Marcus. Jake's bullying didn't stop, it only grew worse. Every hallway, every classroom, every recess became a potential battlefield where Marcus had to brace himself for another wave of insults or pranks. Jake seemed determined to make Marcus regret ever opening his mouth about Vin Diesel. What started as teasing had escalated into something far more sinister, leaving Marcus feeling cornered and powerless. At school, Jake's antics became increasingly creative and cruel. He'd trip Marcus in crowded hallways pretending it was an accident while laughing loudly enough for everyone to hear. During class, he'd kick Marcus's chair repeatedly until Marcus shifted uncomfortably, drawing annoyed glances from teachers who thought he was causing the disturbance. At lunch, Jake would accidentally knock Marcus's tray off the table, spilling food everywhere and earning cheers from his group of friends. Each act of humiliation chipped away at Marcus's confidence, making him question whether coming to school was worth it anymore. But the worst part wasn't the physical harassment, it was the words. Jake's comments were relentless, targeting not just Marcus but his family, his dreams, and even his identity. "Your mom must be so proud of her little liar," Jake sneered one day, loud enough for nearby students to overhear. Another time, he mocked Marcus's love for action movies, saying, "Maybe you should stick to cartoons instead of pretending you're related to someone famous." The racial slurs continued too, delivered casually as if they meant nothing, but their impact lingered long after Jake walked away. Marcus tried to fight back in small ways. Sometimes he'd mutter a comeback under his breath, though it rarely satisfied him. Other times he avoided Jake altogether, taking longer routes between classes or skipping breaks entirely to stay out of sight. But no matter what he did, Jake always found him. It was as if Jake thrived on Marcus's discomfort, feeding off his fear like a predator stalking its prey. Word of Jake's behavior spread quickly among students, dividing them into two groups, those who laughed along with Jake and those who stayed silent out of fear. Only a handful of kids showed any sympathy for Marcus, offering quiet words of encouragement or sitting with him during lunch when Jake wasn't around. Most, however, chose to distance themselves, unwilling to risk becoming Jake's next target. Even Marcus's closest friends grew hesitant to associate with him openly, afraid of being dragged into the drama. Outside of school, Marcus struggled to keep his emotions hidden from his mom, Angela. She noticed the subtle changes, the way He hesitated before answering her questions about his day, the forced smiles that didn't reach his eyes, the sudden drop in his grades. One evening, as Marcus sat at the dinner table pushing food around his plate, Angela gently asked, "Sweetheart, are you okay? You seem different lately." Marcus froze, unsure how to respond. Part of him wanted to pour out everything, to tell her about Jake's taunts, the spilled lunches, the loneliness that crept in whenever he thought about going to school. But another part of him worried about burdening her. Angela worked hard to provide for them, juggling multiple jobs just to make ends meet. The last thing Marcus wanted was to add stress to her already busy life. So instead of speaking up, he shrugged and said, "I'm fine, Mom, just tired, I guess. Tired? Angela didn't push further that night, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Over the next few days, she paid closer attention to Marcus's behavior. When she saw him flinch at the sound of footsteps behind him or catch him staring blankly at his homework, her suspicions deepened. Finally, one afternoon, she decided to investigate. After dropping Marcus off at school, Angela drove straight to the principal's office. She introduced herself and explained the situation as calmly as she could, describing the bullying Marcus endured and showing screenshots of Jake's social media posts mocking her son. To her frustration, the principal responded with vague promises of looking into it and suggested that such issues were best resolved internally. "We'll monitor the situation closely," the principal assured her, though his tone lacked urgency. Unsatisfied with the response, Angela left the meeting feeling both angry and helpless. How could the school ignore something so serious? Wasn't it their responsibility to protect students from harm? Determined to find a solution, Angela spent hours brainstorming ideas. That night, as she scrolled through social media looking for inspiration, an idea struck her, a bold, unlikely plan that might actually work. Vin Diesel. It was a long shot, Angela knew, but she figured it was worth a try. If anyone could bring attention to Marcus's plight and put an end to the bullying, it was the man himself. With trembling fingers, Angela typed out a heartfelt message on Vin's official Instagram page. She explained Marcus's story, detailing the bullying and racism he faced because of his harmless joke. She ended the message with a plea. "Please, if you see this, help us. My son needs hope right now, and knowing that someone like you cares would mean the world to him." To Angela's astonishment, Vin replied within hours. Not through a generic comment or automated response, but a direct message. "Hey Angela," the actor wrote. "Thanks for reaching out. Can you tell me more about what's happening?" Overwhelmed with gratitude, Angela shared every detail: the bullying, the school's lack of action, and Marcus's growing despair. Vin listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and expressing genuine concern. By the end of their conversation, he made a surprising offer. "I'd like to meet Marcus," Vin said. "If it's okay with you, I can arrange a visit to your town. Let's show him he's not alone." Angela's heart soared. For the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope. She thanked Vin profusely and agreed to coordinate the visit, careful to keep it a secret from Marcus. Vin suggested framing the trip as part of an educational initiative to promote kindness and inclusivity, a cover story that would allow him to enter the school without raising suspicion. As plans fell into place, Angela couldn't wait to see the look on Marcus's face when he realized what was about to happen. Meanwhile, Jake remained oblivious, continuing his reign of terror without realizing that his actions had set off a chain reaction, leading straight to Hollywood. Back at school, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Students whispered excitedly about rumors of a celebrity visit, though no one knew exactly why Vin Diesel would come to their small town. Teachers scrambled to prepare for the event, decorating the auditorium and rehearsing introductions. Jake, however, remained uninterested, assuming it was just another boring assembly designed to lecture them about good behavior. Little did Jake know, the upcoming visit would force him to confront the consequences of his cruelty in ways he never imagined. And for Marcus, it would mark the beginning of a journey toward healing, courage, and self-discovery. Though neither boy realized it yet, their lives were about to intersect with Vin Diesel's in a way that would leave a lasting impact. Not just on them, but on the entire community. As the countdown to the big day began, anticipation built, setting the stage for a moment neither Marcus nor Jake would ever forget. The day of Vin Diesel's visit arrived, and excitement buzzed through the school like electricity. Students whispered excitedly in the hallways, speculating why such a famous actor would come to their small town. Teachers struggled to keep classes, focused as kids stared out windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of the star stepping out of a car. Even Jake, who usually acted uninterested in anything that didn't involve causing trouble, found himself curious about the sudden commotion. Though he tried to play it cool, sneaking peeks at the auditorium stage during breaks, his curiosity betrayed him. Meanwhile, Marcus had no idea what was coming. Angela had managed to keep the secret perfectly, telling Marcus only that there would be a special assembly that afternoon. "It's probably just another boring talk about grades or something," Marcus muttered over breakfast, rolling his eyes. Angela smiled knowingly but said nothing, her heart racing with anticipation. She couldn't wait to see the look on Marcus's face when Vin walked onto the stage. As lunchtime approached, the entire school gathered in the auditorium. Rows of students filled the seats, buzzing with energy. Some clutched phones, ready to snap pictures or record videos. Others leaned forward eagerly, scanning the curtains at the front of the stage, waiting for the guest of honor to appear. The principal stepped up to the microphone to welcome everyone, his voice trembling slightly from nerves. "Today is a very special day," he announced. "We are honored to have a guest speaker who has inspired millions around the world with his work and message of kindness." Before he could say more, the lights dimmed and the room fell silent. Then, with dramatic flair, the curtains parted, revealing Vin Diesel standing center stage. Dressed casually in jeans and a leather jacket, he looked every bit the action hero Marcus admired so much. The crowd erupted into cheers, screams, and applause. Students jumped to their feet, waving wildly and shouting his name. For a moment it felt less like a school assembly and more like a concert. Vin grinned, soaking in the energy of the room before raising a hand to quiet everyone down. Thank you," he said warmly, his deep voice carrying effortlessly across the auditorium. "I'm so glad to be here today." He paused, letting his gaze sweep over the sea of faces before continuing. "But I want to start by asking all of you something. Does anyone know why I'm visiting your school?" A few hands shot up hesitantly, but no one dared guess the real reason. Vin chuckled softly and then turned his attention toward the side of the stage. "Actually," he said, his tone playful yet sincere, "there's someone here who might know the answer." With that, he gestured for someone to join him. Marcus sat frozen in his seat, unsure what was happening until a teacher gently nudged him forward. "Go on, Marcus," she whispered encouragingly. Heart pounding, Marcus stood up and made his way to the stage, climbing the steps slowly as if walking through a dream. When he reached Vin, the actor extended a hand, pulling him closer with a warm smile. Well, Vin said, turning to face the audience. "Looks like we've got a celebrity in our midst too. This is Marcus, the guy who claims I'm his uncle." Laughter rippled through the crowd, but it wasn't cruel this time. It was lighthearted and joyful. Marcus blushed furiously, unsure whether to laugh or hide. Vin put an arm around Marcus's shoulders, drawing him closer. "You know what, Marcus? You're absolutely right. From now on, consider me your official uncle." Gasps and cheers filled the room as students erupted. Once again, cameras flashed, capturing the unforgettable moment. Marcus's face lit up with disbelief and happiness, tears threatening to spill from his eyes. But Vin wasn't done yet. As the applause died down, his expression grew serious. "Now, let's talk about something important," he said, his voice steady and commanding. "I heard about some things that have been going on here, things that aren't okay. Bullying isn't cool. Racism isn't cool. No matter where you come from or what you look like, you deserve respect. And if anyone tries to tell you otherwise, they're wrong." His words resonated deeply, especially with those who had witnessed Jake's behavior. Vin went on to share stories from his own childhood, opening up about times when he'd faced discrimination, and bullying because of his mixed heritage. "I know what it feels like to be singled out or made fun of," he admitted. "But let me tell you something. I refuse to let those people define me. You shouldn't either." By the time Vin finished speaking, the atmosphere in the room had shifted completely. Students exchanged glances, reflecting on their own actions and attitudes. Some nodded thoughtfully, while others wiped away tears. Even teachers seemed moved, many of them scribbling notes to remember Vin's powerful message. Jake, however, sat frozen in his seat, his stomach sinking. He hadn't expected any of this. Not the surprise visit, not the heartfelt speech, and certainly not the spotlight being turned directly on him. As Vin wrapped up his talk, he glanced toward Jake's section of the auditorium, locking eyes with him briefly. It wasn't accusatory, but Jake felt exposed, as though Vin somehow knew exactly what he'd done. After the assembly ended, students spilled out of the auditorium, buzzing with excitement. Many lined up to take selfies with Vin, while others lingered nearby, reluctant to leave. Marcus stayed close to Vin, still reeling from the whirlwind of emotions. For the first time in weeks, he felt seen and valued, not just by his classmates, but by someone he idolized. Behind the scenes, Vin pulled Angela aside for a private conversation. "Thank you for reaching out," he told her sincerely. "Stories like Marcus's remind me why it's so important to use my platform for good." Angela thanked him profusely, her voice choked with emotion. "You've given my son hope," she said, "and not just him. You've touched this whole community." As the day wound down, Vin requested a private meeting with Jake. Word spread quickly among students, sparking intense curiosity about what transpired behind closed doors. According to Jake himself, who later shared the story, Vin didn't yell or intimidate him. Instead, he spoke calmly, explaining how harmful bullying could be and sharing personal experiences from his own life. "Being tough doesn't mean putting others down," Vin said. "Real strength comes from lifting people up." His words struck a chord with Jake, who broke down in tears, admitting he'd been acting out due to insecurity and jealousy. Vin encouraged him to apologize to Marcus and offered guidance on how to change his ways. When Jake finally emerged from the meeting, his demeanor had changed. Gone was the cocky swagger. Instead, he looked thoughtful and humbled. Though skeptical at first, Marcus accepted Jake's apology, marking the beginning of a fragile yet hopeful friendship between the two boys. By the end of the day, the school felt different. Inspired by Vin's message, students banded together to create anti-bullying campaigns and foster inclusivity. Teachers noticed a shift in attitudes, with fewer incidents reported and more acts of kindness observed. Marcus, once a target of ridicule, became a symbol of resilience and unity. For Marcus, the visit marked a turning point, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, help can come from unexpected places. And for Jake, it was a wake-up call, forcing him to confront the consequences of his actions and choose a better path moving forward. Though Vin Diesel may not have been Marcus's biological uncle, in many ways, he became a real-life hero who changed everything, for Marcus, for Jake, and for the entire community. The energy in the auditorium was electric as Vin Diesel stood on stage, his presence commanding and larger than life. Students leaned forward in their seats, hanging on to every word he said. Marcus, still standing beside him, felt like he was floating somewhere between reality and a dream. He couldn't believe this was happening. Vin Diesel, the man he idolized, had just claimed him as family in front of the entire school. For a moment, all the pain and humiliation Marcus had endured melted away, replaced by a sense of pride and belonging. But Vin wasn't there just to make Marcus feel special. He had a bigger mission. After sharing his heartfelt message about kindness and inclusivity, Vin turned his attention to the crowd. "Let me tell you something," he said, his voice firm but compassionate. "We're all connected. Whether we realize it or not, our actions affect each other. When someone bullies another person, they create ripples that spread far beyond what they might imagine." He paused, letting his words sink in. Then, with a piercing gaze, he added, "And when someone stands up against bullying, those ripples can turn into waves of change." His tone shifted slightly, becoming more pointed. So today I want to challenge all of you. If you've ever laughed at someone's expense, if you've ever stayed silent when you saw something wrong, or if you've ever been the one doing the bullying, it's time to take responsibility. You have the power to choose kindness over cruelty. The room fell silent, the weight of Vin's words settling over everyone. Some students looked down guiltily, while others exchanged nervous glances. Teachers nodded approvingly, impressed by how effectively Vin had addressed such a sensitive topic without alienating anyone. Even Jake, sitting near the back of the auditorium, squirmed uncomfortably in his seat. Though Vin hadn't mentioned him directly, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the actor's speech was aimed squarely at him. After wrapping up his talk, Vin invited Marcus to stay on stage for a few minutes longer. They posed for photos together, much to the delight of the students who cheered and shouted questions. "Is Fast X your favorite movie?" one kid called out. Another yelled, "Can Marcus come visit you on set?" Laughing, Vin answered as many questions as he could, making sure to keep the mood light and fun. Meanwhile, Angela watched from the sidelines, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't believe how much this moment meant, not just to Marcus but to everyone in the room. Seeing her son stand tall beside Vin, smiling confidently despite everything he'd been through, filled her with immense pride. It was as if the past few weeks of torment had vanished, replaced by a newfound hope and strength. As the assembly drew to a close, Vin stepped away from the microphone to speak privately with the principal and a few teachers. Together, they discussed ways to implement anti-bullying programs inspired by Vin's message. The principal promised to take immediate action, ensuring that incidents like the ones Marcus faced would be handled more seriously in the future. Angela joined the conversation briefly, expressing her gratitude and offering suggestions based on her own experiences advocating for Marcus. While these discussions took place backstage, students filed out of the auditorium, buzzing with excitement. Many of them approached Marcus to congratulate him, patting him on the back or giving him high fives. "Dude, you're so lucky," one boy exclaimed. "I wish I could claim Vin Diesel as my uncle." Others offered apologies, admitting they had laughed at Jake's jokes or stayed quiet when they should have spoken up. Marcus accepted their words graciously, surprised by how quickly attitudes seemed to shift. Jake, however, lingered near the exit, hesitant to leave. He knew what came next, the private meeting with Vin that the principal had arranged. As much as he wanted to run away, curiosity, and maybe even a sliver of fear, kept him rooted in place. When a teacher finally ushered him toward a quiet classroom where Vin waited, Jake's heart raced. What would Vin say to him? Would he yell? Would he call him out in front of everyone? To Jake's surprise, none of that happened. When he walked into the room, Vin greeted him warmly, gesturing for him to sit down. "Hey, Jake," Vin said, his tone calm and non-judgmental. "Thanks for coming to talk with me." Jake blinked, caught off guard by the actor's friendliness. Yeah, no problem," he mumbled, sinking into a chair. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Vin studied Jake carefully, noting the tension in his posture and the uncertainty in his eyes. Finally, Vin broke the silence. "I know why we're here," he began gently. "And I want you to know, I'm not mad at you. I'm here because I care about what happens next. For you, for Marcus, and for everyone else in this school." Jake frowned, unsure how to respond. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. Vin leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Bullying isn't just about picking on someone weaker than you," he explained. "It's often about insecurity. Sometimes people lash out because they're hurting inside, and they don't know how else to cope. Does any of that sound familiar?" Jake hesitated, then nodded slowly. Vin smiled encouragingly. "See? I've been there too. Growing up, I dealt with my share of bullies. And sometimes, I acted like one myself. But over time, I learned that being tough doesn't mean putting others down. Real strength comes from lifting people up even when it's hard." Jake swallowed hard, his throat dry. He didn't expect Vin to understand, or worse, to judge him. But instead, the actor seemed genuinely interested in helping him. "Why are you telling me this?" Jake asked quietly. "Because I see potential in you," Vin replied honestly. "You're young, Jake. You have the chance to rewrite your story, to become someone people look up to instead of fear. But it starts with owning your mistakes and choosing a better path." For the first time in weeks, Jake felt truly seen, not as the school bully, but as a person capable of growth and change. Tears welled up in his eyes as he confessed, "I didn't mean to hurt Marcus. I don't know. I thought it made me look cool or something, but now I see how stupid that was." Vin nodded sympathetically. "Apologizing is a good first step," he said. "But remember, actions speak louder than words. Show Marcus and everyone else that you're willing to change. Be the guy who stands up for others instead of tearing them down." When the meeting ended, Jake left the room feeling lighter than he had in months. He found Marcus waiting outside, surrounded by classmates eager to celebrate his newfound fame. Taking a deep breath, Jake approached him. "Marcus," he said, his voice shaky but sincere. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have treated you the way I did. I was wrong." Marcus stared at him, stunned. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Then, slowly, he nodded. "It's okay," he replied softly. "Just don't do it again." Jake managed a small smile. "I won't," he promised. Though their reconciliation was tentative, it marked the beginning of a fragile truce. Over the next few days, Jake made an effort to be kinder, not just to Marcus, but to everyone. He stopped teasing kids in the hallway and even stuck up for a younger student who was being picked on. At first, his classmates were skeptical, wondering if this sudden change was genuine. But as Jake continued to prove himself, they began to trust him again. Word of Jake's transformation spread quickly, inspiring others to follow suit. Students started forming clubs focused on promoting kindness and inclusivity, organizing events to raise awareness about bullying and racism. Teachers noticed a significant improvement in behavior, with fewer conflicts reported and more acts of compassion observed. For Marcus, life at school became brighter and more hopeful. With Vin's encouragement ringing in his ears, he embraced his role as a symbol of resilience, using his experience to inspire others. And though Vin eventually returned to his busy life in Hollywood, he stayed in touch with Marcus and his family, checking in regularly to see how things were going. Looking back, Marcus realized that Vin's visit had done more than just stop the bullying. It had sparked a movement built on empathy, understanding, and the belief that everyone deserves to be treated with respect. And for Marcus, that lesson was worth far more than any autograph or photo op. The days following Vin Diesel's visit to the school marked a turning point, not just for Marcus and Jake, but for the entire community. The ripple effects of Vin's message spread far beyond the auditorium walls, touching lives in ways no one could have predicted. For Marcus, the weight of Jake's bullying began to lift as the atmosphere at school shifted. Students who had once laughed at Jake's cruel jokes now stood up for Marcus, offering support and friendship where there had been silence before. Teachers noticed the change too, praising the newfound sense of unity among their students. But perhaps the most surprising transformation was happening within Jake himself. After his private meeting with Vin, something inside him clicked. He realized that his actions weren't just hurting others, they were holding him back from becoming the person he wanted to be. Determined to make amends, Jake threw himself into changing his behavior. At first, it wasn't easy. Old habits die hard, and Jake often found himself slipping back into his old ways. But each time he caught himself, he reminded himself of Vin's words. Real strength comes from lifting people up. Jake started small. He stopped teasing kids in the hallway and made a conscious effort to be kinder during class discussions. When he saw someone being picked on, he stepped in, a bold move for someone who had once been the bully. His classmates were skeptical at first, unsure whether this sudden change was genuine. Some whispered behind his back, wondering if he was just putting on an act to avoid getting in trouble. But as days turned into weeks, Jake's actions proved otherwise. Slowly but surely, people began to trust him again. One afternoon, during gym class, Jake spotted a younger boy being mocked by a group of older students. The boy looked terrified, clutching his backpack tightly as the bullies closed in around him. Without thinking twice, Jake stepped forward. "Leave him alone," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension. The older students hesitated, surprised by Jake's unexpected intervention. "What's it to you?" one of them sneered. "This isn't cool," Jake replied, standing his ground. "You don't have to like him, but you don't get to treat him like this either." For a moment it seemed like the situation might escalate, but then one of the older boys shrugged and walked away, followed by the rest of the group. Younger boy looked up at Jake, his eyes wide with gratitude. "Thanks," he mumbled softly. Jake nodded, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction. It was the first time in a long time that he felt proud of himself. Word of Jake's heroics spread quickly, earning him a reputation as someone who stood up for others. Even Marcus, who had initially been wary of Jake's apology, began to see a real change in him. Though their relationship remained cautious, they occasionally exchanged smiles or brief conversations in the hallways. One day, Jake approached Marcus after school and handed him a folded piece of paper. "Here," he said awkwardly. "I wrote this for you." Marcus unfolded the note and read it silently. It was a heartfelt letter apologizing for everything Jake had done and promising to do better. "I know sorry doesn't fix everything," Jake added nervously, "but I hope you'll give me another chance." Marcus looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "I believe you," he said simply. As Jake worked to rebuild trust, Marcus continued to thrive under the positive changes sweeping through the school. Inspired by Vin Diesel's visit, teachers introduced new programs aimed at fostering inclusivity and kindness. Students formed clubs dedicated to anti-bullying initiatives, organizing workshops, poster campaigns, and even guest speaker events. Marcus became an active participant in these efforts, using his own story to encourage others to speak out against bullying. One evening, the school hosted a special assembly to celebrate the progress they'd made since Vin's visit. Parents, teachers, and students gathered in the auditorium, filling the seats with eager anticipation. The principal took the stage first, thanking everyone for their hard work and dedication. "Change doesn't happen overnight," she said, "but because of your commitment to kindness, our school has become a safer, more welcoming place for all." Then, to everyone's delight, Vin Diesel appeared on screen via video call. The room erupted into cheers as his familiar face lit up the projector screen. "Hey, everyone," Vin greeted them warmly. "I've heard so much about the amazing things you've been doing, and I couldn't be prouder." He went on to praise the students for their efforts, highlighting specific examples of kindness and leadership he'd learned about from Angela and the teachers. "You're proving that every single one of you has the power to make a difference," he said. "Keep going. You're inspiring the world." When Vin finished speaking, the spotlight turned to Marcus. Encouraged by his mom and teachers, he stepped onto the stage to share his journey. Nervous at first, Marcus took a deep breath and began recounting everything that had happened, from the bullying to Vin's visit and the changes that followed. His voice wavered at times, but the sincerity in his words resonated deeply with the audience. By the end of his speech, many students and parents were wiping away tears. "I used to think I was alone," Marcus admitted, his voice steady now. "But I learned that asking for help isn't weak, it's brave. And together we can create a world where no one feels afraid to be themselves." The crowd erupted into applause, cheering loudly as Marcus stepped off the stage. Angela hugged him tightly, overcome with emotion. "You did it, sweetheart," she whispered. "You're making such a difference." Even Jake joined in the celebration, clapping enthusiastically alongside his classmates. Though he still had moments of doubt, he knew he was on the right path. That night, as he lay in bed reflecting on everything that had changed, Jake felt a surge of determination. He vowed to keep improving, not just for himself, but for the people he cared about. In the weeks that followed, the school continued to build on the momentum sparked by Vin's visit. Anti-bullying posters decorated the hallwards, reminding students to choose kindness over cruelty. Teachers incorporated lessons on empathy and diversity into their curriculums, encouraging open discussions about difficult topics. And Marcus, he became a role model for resilience, proving that even in the face of adversity, it's possible to rise above and inspire others. Though Vin Diesel may not have stayed in town forever, his impact endured. Through his words and actions, he showed everyone, especially Marcus and Jake, that true strength lies in compassion, forgiveness, and the courage to stand up for what's right. Little did they know, their story was far from over. The seeds of change planted that day would continue to grow, shaping not only their futures but also the lives of countless others who followed in their footsteps. Months passed since Vin Diesel's visit, and the small Midwest town continued to transform in ways no one could have imagined. The school that was once a place of tension and fear became a beacon of hope and unity. What started as a single act of kindness from Vin had ignited a movement, a chain reaction of empathy, understanding, and action. For Marcus, Jake, and their classmates, life had taken on a new rhythm, one defined by growth, healing, and the belief that everyone deserves respect. Marcus embraced his role as a symbol of resilience, but he didn't let it go to his head. Instead, he used his experience to inspire others quietly and humbly. During lunch breaks, he often sat with younger students who seemed shy or lonely, offering them words of encouragement or sharing stories about his favorite action movies. "You don't have to be tough all the time," he'd tell them. "It's okay to ask for help when you need it." His advice came not from a place of superiority, but from personal experience, words he wished someone had told him when he felt most alone. Teachers noticed Marcus's leadership qualities and encouraged him to join the student council, where he quickly became an advocate for inclusivity. Together with his peers, he helped organize events like Kindness Week, during which students performed random acts of kindness, wrote gratitude letters, and participated in workshops led by guest speakers. One year, they even invited Angela to speak at an assembly, sharing her perspective as a parent who fought tirelessly for her child's well-being. Her speech moved many to tears, reminding everyone of the importance of standing up against injustice. For Jake, the journey toward redemption was ongoing. Though he had made significant strides, he still faced moments of self-doubt. There were days when old habits threatened to resurface, tempting him to revert to his bullying ways. But each time, he reminded himself of Vin's message. Being tough doesn't mean putting others down. Real strength comes from lifting people up. These words became his mantra, guiding him through difficult times. Jake threw himself into making amends, volunteering for community service projects and mentoring younger students struggling with similar issues. He joined the anti-bullying club. Marcus co-led, contributing ideas and helping organize events. At first, some kids were hesitant to accept him, remembering the pain he had caused. But over time, his consistent efforts earned their trust. They saw that Jake wasn't just apologizing, he was actively working to become a better person. One memorable project involved creating a mural on the side of the school building. Students collaborated to design a colorful artwork celebrating diversity and kindness, incorporating quotes from Vin Diesel's speech. Jake played a key role in painting the mural, spending hours after school perfecting every detail. When it was finally unveiled, the entire community gathered to admire it. Parents snapped photos, teachers praised the students' creativity, and Marcus stood beside Jake, both boys smiling proudly at what they had accomplished together. The mural became a lasting symbol of the changes sweeping through the town. It served as a reminder that while mistakes can leave scars, they also provide opportunities for growth and renewal. For Jake, seeing his name included among the artists who contributed to the mural filled him with a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. As the school year drew to a close, preparations began for the annual awards ceremony. This event typically honored academic achievements and athletic accomplishments, but this year, something different happened. The principal announced a new award category, the Vin Diesel Spirit of Kindness Award, named in honor of the actor, whose visit had sparked such profound change. Nominations poured in from students, teachers, and parents alike, highlighting individuals who embodied the values of compassion, courage, and leadership. When the ceremony arrived, anticipation buzzed through the auditorium. As names were called for various awards, excitement built for the final announcement. Finally, the principal stepped back onto the stage holding an envelope marked with Vin Diesel's signature. This year's recipient of the Vin Diesel Spirit of Kindness Award is... She paused dramatically, scanning the crowd. Marcus Johnson. The room erupted into applause as Marcus walked to the stage, his face flushed with surprise and pride. Accepting the trophy, he turned to address the audience. "I never thought I'd be standing here today," he admitted, his voice steady despite his nerves. "But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that kindness matters. It has the power to heal wounds, bridge divides, and bring people together. So thank you. Not just to Vin Diesel, but to everyone who believed in me and helped make our school a better place." Moments later, another name echoed through the auditorium. And now, we have a special recognition for someone whose journey reminds us that change is always possible. Please welcome Jake Thompson, winner of the Rising Star Award. Jake froze in his seat, unsure whether to stand. Encouraged by cheers from his classmates, he finally rose and made his way to the stage. Receiving his award, he choked up, struggling to find the right words. "I'm not proud of everything I've done," he confessed, "but I'm trying to do better. And I couldn't have done it without the support of my friends, my teachers, and especially Marcus. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." The standing ovation that followed brought tears to many eyes, including Angela's. Watching both boys receive recognition for their hard work filled her with immense gratitude, not just for Vin Diesel's intervention, but for the entire community's willingness to embrace change. Years later, Marcus often reflected on that pivotal chapter of his life. What began as a harmless joke about Vin Diesel being his uncle turned into a lesson about courage, forgiveness, and the power of standing up for what's right. Though Vin may not have been his biological uncle, in many ways, he became a real-life hero who changed everything, for Marcus, for Jake, and for the entire town. As for Jake, he grew into a young man defined not by his past mistakes, but by his determination to create a brighter future. He graduated high school with honors, earning scholarships for his volunteer work and leadership skills. In college, he majored in education, aspiring to become a teacher who could inspire the next generation to choose kindness over cruelty. The bond between Marcus and Jake remained strong, though it evolved over time. From tentative allies to lifelong friends, they supported each other through challenges and celebrated each other's successes. Their story became a testament to the idea that second chances are possible and that redemption is worth fighting for. And Vin? He stayed connected to Marcus and his family, occasionally sending messages of encouragement or checking in via video calls. On Marcus's graduation day, Vin sent a heartfelt letter congratulating him on his achievements and reminding him to keep spreading kindness wherever he went. Looking back, Marcus realized that Vin's visit had planted seeds of change that continued to grow long after he left. Those seeds blossomed into friendships, movements, and dreams that shaped the lives of countless people. The boy who once dreaded going to school became a leader, inspiring others to rise above adversity. The bully who once thrived on cruelty transformed into a champion of empathy and understanding. And the town that once felt divided discovered the strength of unity. In the end, it wasn't just about Vin Diesel showing up. It was about what happened afterward. It was about choosing kindness over cruelty, forgiveness over resentment, and hope over despair. It was about proving that even in the darkest moments, light can shine through, and sometimes that light comes from the most unexpected places.